what we're going to cover throughout careers, and then just to give some general expectations of the tech landscape. Um, None of this is set in stone. All of it is going to be on the different stages of companies that you're looking at and considering, and the different sizes of those companies. So our goals for this presentation, we want you to have an understanding of our approach to careers here at Lambda School, and that it's built into the curriculum, and we take it very serious here. We want to support our students, not just finding a job, or a lot of times you'll hear somebody say like landing a job. We don't want to look at it that way. We want to look at it as finding an awesome career, and that your dream career might not be the first one that you find or that you start out of Lambda School, but we want to set you up to get you into that dream career after, if it doesn't happen with your first career, after your first one, that's kind of like a stepping stone to get into the tech industry. We also want you to understand what support you're going to get from the different functions of the careers team, and that includes everybody from some of the student success coordinators to your careers coaches, and then what to expect out of these career presentations that you'll get throughout the rest of your curriculum. And there's also, we're here to support you and help you in every way possible, but there also is an expectation for you as students that you're proactive and that you accomplish, you kind of have the go-getter mindset, and because ultimately, as much as I care and as much as Lambda School cares about helping you get into an awesome career, the person who's going to care the most, and remember this as throughout your careers, and many of you know this already from careers that you've already had, but the person that's going to care the most is you. And so just remember that when you're out doing the search, and also the companies want to see that too. They want to see you take ownership, and they want to hire people that are kind of proactive and go-getters. So we'll talk about kind of what our expectations are of students as well. And then, like we talked about, we're just going to help set realistic expectations for the job search and the career search, and then start setting up some priorities for that search. And we'll start with careers. So we've chosen this time for you all to start getting careers lectures for a reason, and that's because we know that students are getting reached out to, and many of you have probably experienced this already if you've got LinkedIn set up, or if you've got your resumes out there and available for people to grab, but you've probably already experienced some recruiters reaching out to you, or maybe you've seen opportunities that you might want to throw your name in for and try to get. So we wanted to provide this as early as realistically possible to help you to help set those expectations and to know how to approach those things. Career, this stuff also takes time. So there's many places, and I've worked with and worked in places before that kind of wait till the end to start talking about the careers team, or for you to work with a career coach or a careers counselor. But unfortunately, putting your resume together takes time. You're putting your LinkedIn together takes time. Your portfolio, all that stuff takes time. And then on top of that, interviewing and applying is really a learned and practiced skill. And so the more practice you have and the more you do it, the better you're going to get. So we really take pride and take it serious to incorporate this into the curriculum to give you as much time as possible to practice, so it's not an afterthought at the end after you've already done everything. And the third bullet there is it's just one of those things. It's really like any kind of like preparation, whether it's for school, sports, whatever. But the more time you put in now up front, the more dividends it's going to pay off, and the easier it's going to be for you at the end. And then just remember what you're here for, and that's to gain some really valuable skills, and then to find an awesome career at the end of this whole thing. And so that's kind of the light at the end of the tunnel, or the goal, whatever analogy you want to use. Uh, that's what keeps us driving forward. Okay, so talking specifically about your career coaches. So I am the part-time career coach right now. So I work full-time hours, but I'm dedicated solely to our part-time programs. I'm Austin Lieberman, and I've been with Lambda School since the beginning of April. And I'm happy to be dedicated solely to our part-time students. And my schedule is aligned. My hours, I work from 1 p.m. Pacific to 9 p.m. Pacific as far as my structured hours. And then I can work in between a little bit too. And or if somebody has once you get a career coach assigned to you, if you have some hours we have to work around, if it's work hours, family hours, or whatever, I can work with you on a one-to-one basis. But that doesn't mean I can do that for everybody all the time, because it would be literally impossible. And then as our kind of our student body grows, we also do intend to bring on more dedicated part-time coaches as well to help with the load. And so what your coach will do, and you'll get your coach assigned to you, and right now it's me, when you start labs. So that's right around week 16, I believe. I could be off by a couple of weeks with that, but when you start labs is when you start working directly with a career coach. And once we start working together, we're going to work specifically on your LinkedIn, your resume, and then your associated artifacts. And so that's your GitHub, just making sure your GitHub's green, and then your portfolio. We set up a number of meetings. I'll give you feedback on LinkedIn and your resume, and we'll kind of perfect those together. And then as you move along what we call the career search timeline or process, from kind of finding the companies you want to apply to applying, to interviewing, to salary negotiations, I'm there with you, or your coach is there with you every step of the way. Could be helping you tailor your resume to a specific application. Then you get a call, and you find out there's going to be a behavioral interview, or you're going to meet the team. We can meet again at that point and do a mock interview and review some and practice kind of your elevator pitch, talking about your story, what you're going to bring to that team. We can do things like mock interviews and prepare you for interviews. And then as you progress through the interviews and job offers start to come in, we have a lot of data and a lot of averages from past Lambda School students. We're familiar with a lot of companies that we can give you some good general guidelines. We're not going to share another student's their private information or anything like that, but we have enough information that we can give you some very good guidelines for salary expectations, some things you can ask for through negotiations, like signing bonuses, relocation fees. Sometimes there can be, if it's like a private company, it could be like equity in the company. So we can help you talk through salary negotiations as well. We do have office hours. And so the office hours Mondays through Friday, those are really for part-time students. And I think they're generally between like 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. Pacific time, which doesn't really work for part-time students. So what we have for part-time students is right now it's on Tuesdays and Wednesdays from 5:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. Pacific. We have office hours. And so those, before you're ever assigned a career coach, or even if you have your career coach, you're always welcome to stop by office hours if you have a question on a resume, an application, any any career related items that you want to ask, you can stop by office hours, and those just work. We post them in the Career Help PT channel. I just post a message in there, and anybody that has a question to ask or wants to talk, you just reply with your name and a comment, and then we go through everybody that gets in line. Our part-time office hours, the only students that those are offered to are our part-time students. For the full-time office hours, if those happen to work with your schedule, our part-time students are more than welcome to join the full-time office hours as well. So you all have the option to go to part-time office hours or full-time office hours. We don't allow the full-time students to come to part-time office hours because there's less opportunities for you, and we don't want those to get taken by full-time students. And the cool thing, and this is one of the reasons that that I wanted to join Lambda School, is just like how passionate I found out the team was to supporting students and even graduates. But what it really excites me is that even after students find a career, we also support you after you graduate. So we support you after you graduate. It's not just while you're at Lambda School, but even after you find a job. After 6 months to a year, if you realize you need to find a new job or you want to go to the next one, you can also come back, and we'll support you kind of with career transition as well. And you get some cool Lambda School swag once you get your first job. Okay, so talked about this a little bit. I do have work hours, and so do the other career coaches. So don't expect 24/7 access. I'm flexible, and I want to help as much as possible. And I realize, many of you have full-time jobs, families, and you're also doing Lambda School and learning. And so I am willing to work kind of outside of normal hours to help out on a case-by-case basis. But please don't take advantage of that. And if try to be as proactive as possible, and kind of don't wait till the last minute to, if you want to send an application in, the following week, try to get to reach out to me or another career coach a few days ahead of time to give us some time to review your resume or help you, if it's help you prepare for an interview. Don't just come to us the day before or the day of and expect us to be able to help, because sometimes we're not going to be able to, with the caveat that sometimes those opportunities come up last minute, and I understand that, we understand that. So kind of on a case-by-case basis, again, I understand sometimes these things come up quick, but to the best extent possible, please, for yourself to prepare and for us to support you best, please try to give us a little bit of notice, so we can have a day or two to review a resume and help you submit your best resume for these job applications. And if you send a message on a Saturday or Sunday, chances are you're not going to get a response until Monday, just because we get weekends too, and that's important, so that we all stay recharged and we're able to invest ourselves fully during the week. We don't guarantee jobs, and we don't give anybody jobs. You all earn those yourselves. I believe, and what we've seen is that the curriculum at Lambda School is starting to speak for itself, especially as more and more students get into tech and show companies how awesome they are, start delivering awesome product or projects. We're seeing more and more companies want to hire multiple Lambda School students. So having Lambda School on your resume does help. They know how intensive the program is, and then we've got it built so that you're going to accomplish projects throughout Lambda School that also give you good experience. But by no means does that give you a job. You've got a lot of work to do on your own, and we're here to help you with that. But it does take work, and there's going to be rejection in there too. And even interviews and applications that don't end well and don't end in landing a job can be very productive, and can be learning points of how to improve and be more prepared for the next interview. Excuse me. Um, and so at times, specifically once you get aligned with your career coach, we'll have a one-on-one. We'll outline all the requirements for your resume, for your LinkedIn, and for your portfolio. And then we've also got some reference documents that you all can reference that outline all those requirements. And so our expectation is that from those conversations, you take that and you apply everything that's provided there, to put your best effort forward to get these things to where they meet the kind of the organization and the requirements that we have laid out in those documents. And then what we do is we help you kind of reword your professional summaries and reword your experience bullets just to really highlight what you did. But what won't be as productive is if you come to your career coach and you haven't even looked at some of these reference documents that outline exactly what the requirements are on your resume, and the resume you give us doesn't even is missing some of the requirements that are clearly laid out on that document. Because what's going to happen from there is you've basically just added another meeting to your timeline, which is just going to extend how long it takes you to get your resume approved. Because then we're going to have to look at it and say, okay, well, you're missing these 3 requirements. Let's take it back and then send me another version once you get those requirements. And then you're going to send it back, and then we'll actually do the review that we could have done in the first place if you had included all of those requirements. So this is pretty exciting. Other resources that you're going to have access to is mentorship based on region, field, and other preferences to help you build your network after you graduate. This is pretty awesome. We started a mentor program, and it started through a tweet actually from our founder, Austin Allred, that I think it was something offering to pay mentors $1,000 if they wanted to mentor a student and help them land a job. So if they only get paid $1,000 if they help a student land a career. And there was, I don't know how many hundred mentors, and these are people at companies like Google, Facebook, Amazon, really all over the US, all kinds of different companies that replied and wanted to be a part of Lambda School. And I think a lot of them could care less about the $1,000. I have a friend at the place I used to work at actually that wanted to be a mentor, and he literally doesn't care if he gets paid $1,000 or not if he finds somebody a job. But what he's most excited about is an opportunity to mentor like some really hardworking students that are bringing like a really great mindset from somebody that hasn't been brought up in tech their whole career, and so who look at things a little bit different than kind of what your standard kind of standard person working in tech that's come from whatever university with whatever degrees. They're just really excited to bring some of that like diverse thinking and diverse backgrounds into tech, and help people that want to work hard. So there's mentors that are out working in the tech world right now with a lot of experience that are signed up, and they're mentoring a lot of our students now. And we've actually found some good success with them finding jobs too. And so that's available, and we're still kind of figuring out how to get that program to scale to where we offer it to all students. But it's a goal we have, and it's something that we're planning on making available to every student. So once you graduate, if there are times where students graduate and they haven't found a career yet, some of it could be they've got a good job now, and so they're kind of being selective on their career choice moving forward. And so in cases like that, we do offer students opportunities to keep applying the skills that they learned in group projects, and then continue working with their career coach to prepare for interviews, practice technical coding challenges, and keep their skills sharp so that they don't just finish school not use anything that you just learned over the last year, and then kind of all your skills atrophy. So there's continuing education. And then the third bullet is access to Lambda School hiring partners. So uh, we have hiring partners that are they are specifically looking to hire Lambda School grads. So we have an entire team that's dedicated to partnerships, and they're doing, sometimes 10 to 20 calls a day with different companies, explaining to them what Lambda School is, what they can expect from Lambda School graduates, and then also kind of interviewing the companies to make sure that they're partner companies that we would be proud to be partners with and think would be a good fit for graduates. And so we've got a number of them signed on. I think I don't know exactly how many, but it's more than 50 now, um, that are interested in hiring Lambda School graduates specifically. What's required to have access to those hiring partners is we want to make sure that we're putting students, we're setting students up for success before they're put in front of those companies, for a couple of reasons. One, because we want to give students the best opportunities to get those jobs, but two, because we really want to impress those companies, because then they're going to want to hire more and more students. They're going to continue to be interested in hiring Lambda School grads, versus if we put people that weren't necessarily quite ready to apply yet, and it made the recruiters' jobs kind of more challenging. They may not be as interested in considering hiring Lambda School grads because they're busy, and if it adds more time to their schedule versus saving them time, then it won't be as beneficial to them. So what we're trying to do is kind of like serve them up great team members that are ready to come join the team, and make their teams better and make the recruiters' lives easier, and then help students get good careers faster. So we call that getting endorsed. And so once you start meeting with your career coach, once you start labs, you'll begin to work on the steps to endorsement. And there's 4 things required to be endorsed, and we've already talked about them. It's your resume, it's your LinkedIn, your portfolio, which is your personal website, and then having a green GitHub. And so those are the 4 things that you'll work through once you get assigned a career coach to meet the Lambda School requirements to then become endorsed. And once you're endorsed, you get added to the endorsed Slack channel and the private Lambda job board, and then you get access to it's called a Breezy job board, where you can apply directly through a job board that's dedicated to Lambda School and our endorsed students. We've seen a lot of success with those jobs, in those companies, and they're located all across the United States. And that list is growing every day. And so moving forward, you'll have and it'll actually be, so every week for you on Mondays, you'll have a careers lesson. So this says every week, but it'll really be every other week. You'll have a lesson like this and an associated assignment. You can, this is kind of depending on how busy you are with the coursework, how busy you are with your life. You can accomplish these at varying levels, and really the more time you put into them reasonably, the more prepared it's going to make you for your career search. So if you want to take them to the next level, sometimes it pays off to put a little bit more effort into the career related assignments than just meeting the minimum requirements to finish them. And then, so your weekly goals should be things that you're not just stretching you outside of your comfort zones, to make what may be your weaknesses now into strengths. And just another reminder there, the more you do now, the less you'll need to do later. And moving into expectations. So we talked a little bit about what to expect in the tech industry and how it can differ kind of just based off the phase of company you're joining. And so we'll start with startups. So generally, these are companies that are less than 100 employees. You learn by doing there, and then in most cases at startups, whatever your job title is, whatever you join as, you're going to do that plus 1 to 3 other things, or 10 other things, just depending on where you're at. And so, and these are things to think about as you're making your kind of your own mental checklist. And I encourage you to create a spreadsheet, a Word document, whatever, of types of companies you want to look at, industries you want to look at, and then begin researching companies. And you can start to kind of bucket them into startup, midsize, large enterprise, to then kind of know what to expect at each of these companies. And this will help you when it comes to applications, when it comes to questions during interviews. And then also just work expectations if that's the type of environment that you want to be in. So startups are generally pretty fast paced. In every person, a startup is a place where every person really matters. And so one of the reasons I wanted to join Lambda School, and Lambda School is still a startup, is that I have experience at other places where, much larger companies, thousands of people, where, the company were people based and value based, but still, like, if I wasn't there or 20 people weren't there each day, it really doesn't matter. Like, everything's going to continue to go in motion. The really cool thing, and also it could be the stressful thing about startups, is like everybody is crucial. And so you'll have a large impact at startups. And with that being said, job security is not as stable. And this varies from startup to startup, right? And so some of the things you want to know if you're considering a startup is just how long has a company been around, how successful are they so far, and then kind of like, what is their burn rate? How much runway do they have of money they're spending each month versus how much cash they have in the bank? And a company should be comfortable telling you that before you join. So generally, self-starters, people that are adaptable, you're able to juggle many priorities in a fast-paced environment. Those are the kind of traits for people that are generally successful joining startups. So salaries will probably start lower at startups, but you can expect perks and equity. Perks can be anything from really great benefits. So a lot of different startups have things like health allowances to go and spend at for a gym membership, or travel allowances, or better vacation and time off policies. Then oftentimes I'll have better policies like that than a lot of larger companies will, just because of how expensive that stuff would be for companies with thousands and thousands of people, and how kind of set in their ways some of those companies are. You can also get equity in companies, in private companies. And so what that is that comes in the form of stock options. And there'll be a more in-depth lesson on this in the future. But at a high level, stock options just give you the right to buy shares in a company at a certain price. So you could say $10 is the strike price of the options. They give you the right to buy shares at $10 at a later date. So if you join a company, you get 1,000 stock options at $10 an option. That gives you the right to buy them at $10 an options, or an option, which would be $10,000 total. What you're hoping is that over the next year to 4 years, or however long you're with the company, those $10 options become $100 options, or at least $20 options or $30 options. So then when you leave the company and you're fully vested and you exercise your options, you pay $10,000, but their worth at the exact time that you make that transaction, they're immediately worth $50,000 or $100,000 or $200,000. And that happens if the company that you're at continues to grow and continues to be successful. They get revalued every year, and there's an entire team that decides what those options are worth, basically. And again, that's just a very high level review of how that goes, but that's how equity goes. Companies sometimes will try to abuse employees and really offer them low salaries with higher equity options. Which the tricky thing about equity is if the company isn't successful, it could be worth nothing. So it really does come on a case by case basis, and you have to balance that. And that's what your career coach is there to help you with, is to talk through some of that stuff. So again, smaller teams, more flexible, and culture trends towards casual. Okay, so mid-size is 1 to 500. And the theme here is just as you move to the larger company, things are just going to be a little bit more structured. You'll kind of know what to expect a little bit more. In general, you can say more secure, with the caveat that sometimes these mid and larger companies are old and outdated. And so it still requires a little bit of research to look at how that company is doing before you consider joining, because you don't want to join a company that's like really struggling and potentially going bankrupt. And if they're medium or large public companies, it could be pretty easy to research all of the financials and see the status of the company that you're considering. You do generally get more opportunities for mentorship at mid to larger size companies, because people tend to have less jobs. Like we talked about, people are wearing a number of hats at startups. So things can be a little bit slower moving. You have a little bit more time, and they can be a little bit more structured to where there's mentorship programs, development programs, things like that. Salaries can be more competitive. Benefits can be more competitive. And so, a common thing that you don't get at startups, but that you might get at a mid to large company, is like a 401k match. So that's where if you contribute to your 401k, a lot of these companies will match up to like 50% of up to 6% of your pay. So if you put in 6%, they match 3% on your 401k. Many startups don't offer anything like that just because they don't have the money, whereas mid and larger companies do. And then oftentimes you won't get equity options or have the ability to get them at mid and larger companies. Corporate company is 500 employees and larger. Kind of what I talked about earlier. There's the potential that you feel like kind of just a number there. I've felt like that before, so I can kind of speak from experience there. But that comes with, sometimes less intense of a workload and a more predictable schedule. So that could be good too. Salaries can be higher. They can have good benefits. And then, oftentimes at these companies, you have to earn and accrue PTO. Whereas at some smaller companies, that they might be on an unlimited PTO policy as long as you're getting your work done. Another thing to think about as you're considering these companies, and you might want to target companies in each category. The hiring process can take longer at larger companies because there's more people that have to approve it. It's got to go from one level to the next to make a hiring decision. Whereas at startups, sometimes it's one person or two people that need to talk to you to make that decision, and they might need people really fast at startups because they have a critical need that's not being met. More opportunities for mentorship. They've got like we talked about established training and established training groups. And then sometimes having these big like notable companies, IBM, Google, Facebook, Amazon. Uh, Having companies like that on your resume can help you later in your career as well. Okay, so keeping our expectations realistic. It's unfortunate, but sometimes it's true. Your first job is usually not your dream job, or your first career is not your dream career. It can be, but it isn't always. And that's one of those things that just knowing yourself, knowing your um, kind of what your priorities are and what your life situation is going to help you know how um, specific or selective to be when you're considering these companies. Um, you don't want to take something that doesn't meet your financial needs and isn't going to develop you at all. But you also don't want to hold out for your absolute dream job. So it's just finding some self awareness and self reflection to think about where you're at and what jobs you're looking at, and then whether or not it helps you get to where you want to go in life. Um, yeah, you want to prioritize your time and look at companies that you would be passionate to join and to work at. Um, but not every company that you apply to um, has to be a company that you're super passionate about working at. There's a lot of times, especially early in your career search process, it's good to apply to companies that are kind of like second tier for you because they're practice opportunities. For one, you might get an offer and you might learn more about the company that makes you like it a lot more. But two, it's an opportunity to practice interviewing, practice applying, get some feedback on your resume, potentially get some feedback on the way you interview, and just help you know what to expect for some of these technical interviews at different companies without doing that for the first time at like your number one company. Um, One thing I like to tell students, and I've done this every time I've applied for a job, um, at the end of an interview, always ask for feedback. Um, if you have time, and generally they'll ask you if you have any questions. So ask a question or two about the company, about the position. But one thing I think that really sets people apart is if you ask for feedback in the interview. Hey, um, thanks for meeting with me today. I'm really interested in this position. Do you have any advice on or any feedback for me or advice on how I could have prepared better or how I could have interviewed better? For one, it gives you a really good feel about how you did in the interview, and two, it shows the interviewer um, that you're self-aware and that you want to learn and you want to improve. Um, I have a family myself, and location for me was something very important. And so I was different times in my career search. I've been very selective about location, and it's limited me in where I can go and job opportunities. And I would say the same for you. If you are willing and able to relocate, that can really open up a lot of opportunities to you. But you don't have to be. And if you're not, just be aware that it could be more challenging and it could take longer for you to get a career and land a job. Or I said land a job. I don't like to say that. To find a career. Um, and that's okay if that works for your life, because for me personally, one of the most important things is being in a place that's good for me and good for my family. And so I was I weighed that in my on my priorities and sacrificed certain job opportunities or whatever, and that was okay. I'm okay with that. Um, so whichever way you go with that, just put the thought into it and make sure that you're not sacrificing your family to for a job, unless that's something that you can do for a short period of time, or that you're not sacrificing um, a job for your family uh, if it's not going to meet your goals. Remote jobs um, are getting more popular, but they're still scarce. And oftentimes, the first uh, first job in the field, we want it to be in person and on an actual team. Um, just because there's more learning opportunities, it's better to network and integrate with a team face to face versus remote. That's not to say that nobody should take a remote job. There are a few organizations that do remote jobs really, really well, and they're set up to support that. So it's kind of a case by case basis. Um, you definitely want to stay in your first job for at least a year. One of the toughest things to do is jump from job to job, especially with less than a year of experience as a new entrant into the career field. And like we talked about, rejections are part of the process. It's going to happen. Um, it's kind of just part of the journey. It's not personal. Um, everybody has been rejected, and it's only a way to get better. And always send thank you emails even after you've been rejected. Because sometimes what they'll do is they'll put you in a pile and they'll reach out to you when a better opportunity comes up. So just remember, your first 3 to 6 months are basically an extended interview. Um, you're still proving yourself. You're still showing the value that you can add. So just continue working hard. Everybody makes mistakes. Don't try not to make silly mistakes. And then we don't want to continue to make the same mistake over and over. It's just like your time at Lambda School. Ask for feedback at work and in the interview process. Relationships are important, but just remember, make sure you're getting work done and just be cognizant of the time that you're spent and seen socializing. It's really easy to fall into the trap of going out with a team for bonding and having too many drinks and either being unprofessional or saying something that offends somebody or somebody else offending you or treating you wrong. Never is that okay, but the common thing there, and I've seen it happen at different places in my career. The common thing there is usually alcohol consumption. And again, no excuse. It doesn't make anything okay. But just be mindful of that. And again, people are still going to remember you by the things you did and the things you said while you were out drinking, whether you were drinking or not. Like going to work the next day in a professional environment, people are still going to remember what happened outside of work. Avoid asking for PTO in the first 3 months, except for emergencies. If you're at a company that you immediately have paid time off, it's okay to use that as long as you're upfront and you communicate with your supervisors and your work's getting done if you need to, in your second or third month. But certainly don't abuse it. Don't go over on PTO. And if you can, then avoid it and just focus on learning kind of your first 3 months. So throughout interviews, your email goes on your resume. So firstname.lastname@gmail.com. Just remember, feedback is a gift in the interview process at Lambda School with your career coach. You're going to get a lot of it from here and from me. I would ask the same from you. Give me feedback as well. Let me know how I can improve and how I can serve you better. And I'll do the same for you, because our goal here is to help you find an awesome career, and the best way to do that is to improve. The third line is funny, and I was in the Air Force for a while, and had a supervisor tell me one time, you'll never have more time than you have now. And it was about like getting kind of like professional development training done. I was like, I'm busy right now. But then like a couple of years later, I was moving, so I was super busy. A couple of years later, I had kids, and I was super busy. And so it's true. Like, you think you're busy now, but start knocking some of this stuff out because you're never going to have more time than you have now. Um, you're going to continue to get busier and busier. So just break it into pieces, make it manageable, and start knocking some of these things out. Don't ghost your coach. That's me. Don't ignore me. Um, Communicate with me, please. Once you get assigned a coach, and if it's me specifically that you get assigned to, um, I'm very flexible, and you are not bothering me by sending me Slack messages. So please, just over communicate with me, and let me know if you're missing anything, what I'm, how I can get better, how I can help you if you need anything. I would much rather have that than never hearing from you, or you avoiding me if I message you. And that, believe it or not, that does happen sometimes with some students. Um, and it's sad. Like it's sad when that happens with students because we want to be able to help. Um, and then just let us know when you get a job. We certainly want to celebrate with you. It it's like it's your work. It's your work that gets you those jobs. But it's like that's why I do this, is because it just, I don't know, it just means the world to me to have an opportunity to work for you all, and help you in some small way, to get those awesome careers. So it means a lot when you share that with us, and we're here to help. We're here to help through the transition process. First days at work, if you have questions or whatever, we're here to help with that stuff. Keep coding, keep designing every day. Um, Keep those skills sharp, and then trust the process. Okay, we've provide us feedback and help us get better, but this is starting to be successful for thousands of people, um, and and it's because you all work really really hard, and people have given us feedback and we've improved over time. So continue giving us feedback, but have a little trust too, in yourselves for one, for sure, and in us and in the process. And always ask questions. If you have a question about anything, why are we doing this? Why aren't we doing this? Ask. Okay, so for Friday, so this is getting into the assignment of the week. Um, Use a job search tool, Evernote, or whatever organizer you like to use, um, to start setting weekly goals for your job search. And they don't have to be huge weekly goals, but start setting goals for yourself to break this into chunks over time. And then submit whatever it is that you come up with your goals, to your PM on Friday. And then write out a paragraph describing your priorities in a company and what type of environment you would be best fit for: small, large, or mid, large, casual, or more formal, fast paced, slow paced, whatever. And it doesn't have to be exactly those. Like, just talk about the company that you really want to join, and submit that to your PM as well. And I'll provide these in the notes. Okay, I went a little long. I apologize. I apologize, again for starting late. That was my fault, and it's not acceptable. So I'll make sure that we start on time in the future. Um, if you want to stay, you're more than welcome to stay. I'll jump into Slack to see if anybody asks questions. If you've got to go, totally understand. And I'll post these assignments in each of your sections Slack channel for you to remember what you owe to your PM on Friday. Um, so I'll start jumping into Slack now. Thank you for your time. Thank you for being here. And I'm proud and thankful to be a part of your journey. So thanks. And if you want to stay, I'm going to jump into Slack right now. Okay, first question from Gary. Do we need to be in here while we wait for one-on-ones? Yes, these are still required. So this is your career lecture portion. Your one-on-ones are what you'll do with your career coach once you get assigned a career coach, and then the one-on-ones specifically are to accomplish things like getting endorsed. So that's where we'll work through resume, LinkedIn, all that stuff. Same question was kind of asked before. Uh-oh, someone said Zoom is maxed out right now. That's not good. This will be recorded. Okay, so next time we got to have a larger max on Zoom. Got it. Joshua asked, or Donald asked, it looks like is a copy from Donald's question. Are we still able to apply to the mentorship program? I think right now it's closed just because they did a pilot with it. They did the initial, they kept it kind of small for the first iteration just to make sure that we get it down right at first. And then I think we're going to broaden it and we're going to open it up to more people in the future. So there will be more to come on that, on the mentorship program. Lisa Campbell asked, "Are those companies hiring for remote developers from Lambda School?" Lisa, I think you're probably talking about the partners. I believe I have seen some of our partner positions be open to remote. It's not nearly as common. There's only a few of them that I've seen that have been remote positions, but there have been a few remote positions for our partners. Amberly asked, how often are stock options available in negotiations? Have you ever seen it in non-startups? Yes, Amberly, I have seen it in non-startups. It's I would say like the larger and older the company, the less common it is. And especially for positions that aren't like senior management positions. If you were to join that company in some type of executive or senior manager role, it's maybe a little bit more common. To answer the first part of the question, how often are stock options available in negotiations? I would say probably more often than not in startups, they're available. What organization? Cody asked what organization tools we recommend. I've whatever. I'm the type of person that like I've tried probably every organization tool out there, and really for me, what's easiest is like the simplest thing. So some people love spreadsheets. Some people might want to create their own. If you create your own organization tool, that could be a project on your portfolio or on your resume. So that could be pretty cool, and you could share it with other students. But otherwise, I use Evernote for a lot of different things. There's a free version of that can be great for storing stuff. Google Docs could be just fine. Like a Google Sheet could be fine. You can use Excel to create a spreadsheet that has all the columns that you want. People I think it's a free app. I think Hunter is a free app that you can add, and I think it's HUNTR, that you can add companies that you want to apply to and save companies that you're interested in. Lisa asked where to find the reference documents for your resume. I could post those in the channel, Lisa. Roland asked if there's a resume template to use. Should we have it on Google Docs or Word? Google Docs is fine. What you want to do before you ever send your resume in is export it to PDF. So you could do it in Word or Google Doc, which as long as you export it to PDF before sending it in. We do have some templates that you can use. You don't have to use anything that we have. A lot of people use kind of the 2-column templates. And unless you are a UX designer, or if you're data science, it would be okay too. We kind of recommend away from using too many colors and getting too fancy with your resume. because as a web student or even like an iOS student, that what your resume really what you want to really stand out on your resume is you and the words, and you want to make it as easy as possible to for the recruiters to review your resume. For data science and UX, kind of it could be a way to kind of show off your some of your design abilities or your design thinking, to have a more creative resume. So that's where, for those types of sections, it could be okay for that. Um, Elizabeth asks, how do negotiations work? Is it something you pitch on your own, or is it through a recruiter? Great question, Elizabeth. It could be both. So through kind of a standard job application process, you'll apply, you'll do kind of a like a phone screening, maybe a tech interview, a behavioral interview, and then you'll kind of get to um, the the final interview. And really, up to that point, like, and it just depends on who you're interviewing with, but you should almost not have talked at all about salary, um, or like negotiations or anything like that. And then what you want to do is once they've expressed that they're interested in hiring you, and they ask you, you start to talk compensation. You want kind of them to give you a range for the position that they're hiring for, versus you giving them a number first, because then you can work off of what the range is for the current employees in that position. um, and you won't really negotiate at all until you've got an offer. So then they'll take that, you'll finish your interview, ideally you'll get an offer. And once you get an offer, that's where you can come back and say, based on my experience and what I'm able to bring to the team and to this position, and the market research I've done, are we able to agree on this salary, instead of the one that they offered? Or um, are you flexible on options, and can we add another 2,000 options or something like that once you have the offer? And don't be afraid to negotiate either, as long as you're reasonable and you're professional about it. A company is not going to take an offer away because you asked for 5 or 10% more salary, as long as it's in a respectful and responsible way. Okay, I'm going to jump into DS1 right now and see if they have any questions, because I just asked all those from web. Oh, not DS1, DSPT1. Sorry. And again, anybody that needs to go, you are more than welcome to take off. Okay, somebody asked, how do you deal with external issues like economic downturn, et cetera, during the job search for graduating students? That's a good question, and it's a scary question, because it's something that's completely outside of our control, and it's something that me personally, I've been fearful of too. One sec. Excuse me. And the sad answer is that, like, there's nothing. It's out of our control in a way. One way to prepare that is years ahead of time, and that's thinking financially, and living kind of below your means, if you're able to, and saving money and having a little bit of a cushion, in case, not just for this job search, but for future job searches, if you're ever out of a job or have time in between jobs. That's not realistic for many people, so unfortunately that's not an option for some people. But another way to think about it too is to think about the company, how um, successful the company that you're joining is. And again, this is where thinking about some of the risks associated potentially with joining a startup, depending on where you're at in life. If you have kids, if you have a number of family members that are dependent on your income, and you might be the sole source of income, then as fun as joining a startup could sound, maybe that's not the ideal environment. And it's better to go with a company that has lived through multiple recessions and 2007, 2008, 1999, 2000, and shown that they can stick it out, if they're doing well and still healthy, financially. And that's where kind of doing the background research to figure out where a company stands, and asking questions, uh, during the interview as far as, um, specifically around startups, um, like what their burn rate looks like, and what their kind of their plan for the next 6 months to a year is. um, Good question. Oh, Charles said one-on-ones with PMs. Okay, got it. Versus career coaches, because the question earlier was, should we do this or one-on-ones? Uh, Tyler asked, when does Lambda School help with finding jobs? Recently found. Okay. Sorry to hear that. Tyler, or Jay Tyler, I'm not sure what your first name is. Um, we 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 will help you review a resume. If you come to office hours, we can review a resume in there. So we do office hours Tuesdays and Wednesdays, 5:30 to 7:30 Pacific. You can stop by there, and we can help review your resume. Um, Students, are you can apply to jobs at any time. We just we won't endorse students, which we won't offer, um, the opportunity to get endorsed and then start to be able to apply to our partner positions, until you've started labs. That's when we offer students the opportunity to get endorsed. We will certainly help you with your resume before then, and you are welcome to apply to jobs before then as well. Thank you, Stephanie. She said she enjoyed the lecture. That means a lot. How uh, Karthik, I'm sorry if I pronounced your name wrong. How difficult is it to get your unvested stock options matched if you are changing companies? I have no idea. Um, let me. I'm going to make a reminder to myself on that question, and I'll ask some of our staff and just see if anybody has experience with that. Um, I'll get back to you, Karthik. All right, moving over to UXPT1. Oh, if you got to go and get to your one-on-ones, you do not have to stay here, because I saw another comment about the one-on-ones. Okay, I don't see any questions in there. And then moving to iOS PT1. Okay, no questions in there. All right, and we'll go back to WebPT7 to see if there are any other questions asked, and then we'll end it. Oh, I see nodding heads. See nodding heads that there are questions asked. Let's see, what about? I feel terrible. There's more than 100 people that wanted to join this thing, and we only had 100 slots. Okay, let's see. Okay. Oh, and all right. Back to Elizabeth's question about the negotiations. Like, you should almost always negotiate. There's like 95% of the time when you get your offer, you, I'm going to say 100% of the time, unless you've had conversations with them and you're absolutely 100% clear that they cannot go any higher, but that's almost never the case. You should 100% of the time negotiate professionally and respectfully. Um, my wife is she's an RN, and like, they have pretty standard salaries, and she actually just switched jobs and was able to negotiate. So it's like, it it's expected for people to ask for money. Like, they're almost never going to give you the most money that they can. in a position, just because it wouldn't be fiscally responsible of them. But if you ask, the worst thing they're going to do is say no. Um, so again, negotiate. What's the average salary Lambda alumni receive? Does it differ greatly from regular computer science degrees? I don't know our average salary number off the top of my head. I can tell you, mostly I've seen them in I mean, they range. I've seen them range from 57,000 or 50,000 or so to 130 or something like that. Somebody got hired at. The thing that it's most dependent on is location, because 130,000 in the Bay Area is like is probably like 60 to 70,000 in other places. So it's so dependent on where you're located, and the company. And this isn't a definitive answer, but I don't think, again, like per location, per position, I don't think there's much of a difference between regular computer science degrees and what Lambda School grads would get, because what it's based off of is the position that you're applying for. So an entry level position, whether you have a bachelor's degree in computer science or from wherever, is going to be an entry level position at these companies. Vinny, yes. Does Lambda School give advice about cleaning up online presence if you need it? Yes. Your career coach, once you get assigned, will certainly look at that stuff for you. If you have questions about it, that's a perfect question for office hours. And if you're asking that question, it sounds like you might think you need to clean up your online presence. So there's no this is a judgment-free zone, but we're happy to help you with that. If you have questions about what to post, what not to post, we could talk about that too. Elizabeth asked, could we get help finding a starter job now while we are part-time, as we are still learning our skills, i.e. a marketing position that uses HTML, CSS, only until we finish and learn everything like React Node. Elizabeth, good question. And that's, so again, we will certainly help you like prepare a resume or review a resume. If you stop by office hours, either part-time ones or any of the full-time ones, we could do like a resume review there. And we could certainly talk through if you have questions on applications, on interviews and stuff like that. You can also ask in the Career Help or the Career Help PT channels. You can ask there, but you won't get like one-on-one time with a career coach or with me until you've started labs and you're assigned to me as your career coach. And we would spend, there's a couple reasons for that. The first is that we really want students focused on the curriculum while they're first starting in the class, and nailing down some of those skills at first, especially if they're coming in without much prior experience, so that there's retention, but also just the amount of students that we have. That would be a lot of students, like thousands of students potentially to be doing one-on-ones with at the same time. And so we've broken it into week 16, which is when it makes sense for based off the curriculum, and then just based off timing, that we'll start with the career coach portion, having one-on-ones where we're talking about applying for jobs and getting your resume and all your endorsement stuff knocked out. Yes, Lisa, this is still being recorded. Mock interviews. Will we have practice negotiating? Um, sure, we can practice that. The negotiation a lot of time though is not like it's not like a in-person negotiation. In fact, almost never, because um, offers are done in writing, and so you'll either have an opportunity to just reply via email and ask for more, or it will be a phone conversation, but it'll be after um, you've been offered a job. So from that standpoint, yes, once you're working with your career coach, we'll kind of talk about okay. I mean, I've met with students this week that are in different phases of the application process, and we're starting to expect that they're going to get offers. And so naturally, we've kind of changed our conversation to okay, you're at the final round. If you get a call back, like don't don't act not interested, and they offer you a job, don't act not interested, but also don't don't like jump for joy and tell them that no matter what, you're going to accept the job. Um, you when if they call you and they give you a job offer, you don't have to accept it on the spot. You can say, thank you. Let me, and I'll give you the number. Can I have a couple days to consider this and talk to my family about it, or whatever? Um, and then you can re-engage and think about what you want your response to be and how you want to present it to them, to then and what number you want to ask for, or what you want to ask for, and then um, call back or email them back, or whatever it is, to negotiate. So it's not like a mano a mano, like one-on-one negotiation generally. Um, all right, I think we're going to call it there. I don't see any other questions, and we're way over on time. So thank you all. This has been recorded. We'll get started earlier next time, and then we won't have a cap on Zoom. So thanks for your time, and I'll post the assignment stuff in your Slack channels. Have a good night.